For those of you in the audience who have not yet attended one of these hearings recently, let me review our normal procedure. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. If you would like to speak, please fill out the speaker form located on the table in the lobby and indicate the item number and whether you are for or against the item, and please give the form to the clerk seated on my left. The applicant and supporters will be heard first. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. Then the applicant may be given a chance for rebuttal. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. If you're an individual, you will have 3 minutes for comments. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Speakers should move closer to the podium when their item is being presented by staff. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by stating their name and address. Each speaker should be given respectful and courteous attention. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. Information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at the public hearing will be kept as part of the public record. I would then ask for a motion from the board. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. 2 housekeeping things. One, our tech folks in the back doing the televising are asking to make sure we talk into the microphones. They're having trouble picking us up sometimes. And when you second a motion, please look at the clerk and make sure she can hear you. She's having trouble picking it out on the recordings. Okay, we're ready for the first item.
Good evening, Angie. With Planning and Development, item number 1 is a request for a side yard east setback variance from 7.5 feet to 1.5 feet for a carport in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District located at 787 Fantasy Lane in the Mill Shores subdivision. The detached carport is 541.17 square feet and encroaches 6 feet into the required side yard east setback. A letter of support was received from the neighbor that will be directly affected, located at 840 Nocturne Drive. The applicants received a code violation for unpermitted construction of the carport, code violation number 20-139, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I know on the dais there was an invoice from Southern Image for this item. Was this requested by?
Oh, for the
gutter.
no, I think that was just something that they did to maintain the drainage.
Okay, I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
something.
it wasn't required,
Part of
no,
the code
but-
violation or anything that was required.
It wasn't required by zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation? If so, you need to come up to the podium. If you start off by stating your name and address.
Okay, Amanda Vargo, 787 Fantasy Lane, Chiliota 32766. We inherited this problem before we bought the home, we bought the home and then inherited this problem, and weren't aware of the violation. We've worked with the neighbor and we are gonna go ahead and install gutters to help with the drainage. I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying the neighbor, if you install drainage, is not opposed to it?
No. She's well aware of our situation and she understands. She actually doesn't want it gone because it provides privacy between our two yards. But she just wants the drainage up, and that's what she wanted from the previous owner, but they sold the house and then we weren't aware of the situation until after the fact. So we're working with her.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Sir?
Ma'am, do you know when this structure was built, erected, or whatever?
I found the manufacturer and pulled like what I could as far as records, and I've submitted them as much as what I could find. I think it was put in between, like, around 2017.
So it's been sitting there for 4 years?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So she had other, I guess there was issues, I guess, previous, unknown to me, but the previous owner, so this was kind of something that she did to make her stance, but then they moved, and then we moved in, but we worked with them and everything, so.
Good, good. Gotcha, thank you. There's some answers.
Okay.
Yes.
Happens all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
I move to approve.
Second?
Question,
Yes,
does
sir.
that include the guttering that was requested by the neighbor for drainage?
It was his motion.
Does that
Yes,
include the
yeah,
guttering?
yeah, it's on the, so yeah, I'm
So make
wrapping
it
it up.
part of the motion.
Thank you. Part of the motion is with the gutters, that's why I thought
Okay,
this was
right.
issued to us, exactly.
You're good with that, second? All right. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck. It passes. All right, next item.
Item number 2 is a request for 1, a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 2 feet, and 2, a side yard east setback variance from 10 feet to 2 feet for a carport in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 121 Lamplighter Road in the Apple Valley subdivision. The property owner received a notice of code violation for unpermitted construction in 2020, code violation number 20-263. The existing carport is 480 square feet and encroaches 28 feet into the required rear yard setback and 8 feet into the required side yard setback. The carport encroaches 5.5 feet into the 7.5-foot utility easement and will be required to go through the utility easement vacate process prior to any building permits being issued. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add? Come on now. State your name and address, please.
Joe Washington, 121 Lamplighter Road. If any pending questions for me, I'm trying to take care of the situation.
Okay, what's on that property behind you? It looks like woods on my map.
There is a bunch of trees back there and property back there, but other than that, it's just dwelling.
And how does your neighbor on that side feel about it?
The left and the right has no issues with it. I don't know about the backside. I don't think they have any issues as well. There's nothing obstructing the view or anything like that. I didn't know that I had to turn these in beforehand, but I've got a couple of considerations from the neighbors that didn't have any problem with it. Okay.
Any questions for the applicant?
Did you say that you did not talk to the neighbor to the rear?
To the rear, no, I did not.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion? Give you a moment to read that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I have these 2 consents, both listing 120 Lamplighter, which is the affected property. So I'm not quite sure who these consents are, where they live.
I think the address of our property that we're looking at is 121.
121 is the property address, yeah?
Right, but if you look at the top, the
both say
second line, it
120,
says
yeah.
120 for each of those. And he just said he didn't talk to that person because 120 is directly behind the way I read the map.
So that's a different road, that's Candlewick, directly behind him.
Oh, Candlewick, oh, I'm sorry.
So 120 would be the property
Across the street.
directly
Across the street, yeah, across.
Okay.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
You have a motion to approve?
Second.
You have a second, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay. Motion carries. Good luck to you. You still have to go through the zoning process and get permits and all. All right, next item.
Item number 3 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 25 feet to 13 feet for a wood deck in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 1130 Tea Garden Street in the San Leandro Springs subdivision. The applicant applied for and received a building permit 21-10339, for a single-family residence on June 30th, 2021. The building plans did not include the wood deck. The applicant will require to do a revision to the original permit. The subject property is a corner lot and considered to have 2 front yard setbacks. The front of the house faces Tea Garden Street, and the Rockwood Circle side is where the variance is being sought. The proposed wood deck will be approximately 580 square feet and will encroach 12 feet into the required side street setback, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? It never ceases to amaze me the odd property shapes that we come up with.
I'm looking at the picture, it's amazing.
Builder's fault,
Yeah.
or the
Okay, is the
engineer.
applicant present? Yes, is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation? Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you, it's approved. All right, next item.
Item number 4 is a request for, 1, a side street west setback variance from 10 feet to 7 feet, and 2, a side yard east setback variance from 10 feet to 6.5 feet for an addition in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 6003 Lineal Beach Drive in the Jansen subdivision. The proposed addition and remodel will be approximately 350 square feet, will encroach 8 feet into the required side yard west setback and 3.5 feet into the required side yard east setback. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation? All right, come down and state your name and address, please.
Hi, George Carozana, 6003 Lineal Beach Drive in Apopka.
Good evening.
Good evening. I also have the GC here with me too as well.
Okay.
I'm Hector Buckhammer with Sunshine Construction. My address is 1111 Garrett Gilliam Drive in Ocoee, Florida.
All right. Yes, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, the house was built in 1965, I believe, and we just want to add in master bedroom. We're not adding anything to the east side of it. We're just going to follow the line of the garage, behind the garage. And we're raising the roof to as well in the property. Of the plans have been submitted already to the county for approval. We just kind of run into this roadblock, not knowing the right setbacks on the property since it was built in 1965. We also own the property on the east side of this property, 6007 Lineal Beach Drive.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. So it's legally non-conforming on the structure of the age. All right. Anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
You have a second? Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, it's approved. Good luck. All right, next item.
Item number 5 is a request for a side street setback variance from 15 feet to 3 feet for a privacy fence in the PD Plan Development District located at 2715 Estuary Loop in the Hideaway Cove at Oviedo Phase 1 subdivision. The subject property is located in the Hideaway Cove at Phase 1 subdivision and is within the Hideaway Cove Oviedo Plan Development. On July 26, 2020, the Board of Adjustment approved a variance for a fence from 15 feet to 3 feet. The request is asking for an additional 24 feet, linear feet of privacy fence to be placed within that 3 feet. They're not requesting to go closer to the property line, just want to add additional feet alongside the house. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility, and the applicant submitted the HOA approval letter, and one letter of support was submitted from an adjacent neighbor. And this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, you said that was approved when? The extension, when did we approve that?
July 2020 by the Board of Adjustment?
Thank you.
26.
Thank you.
Yeah, July 20.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Is the applicant present? Yeah. Come on down, sir. Just state your name and address for the record.
Keith Brazendale, 2715 Estuary Loop, Oviedo, Florida, 32765.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
Yeah, just maybe justification for the extra linear feet. So when we purchased the property, it was a new development. Mailboxes are just off that picture there to the left. There's 130 homes now in the development, so we get a lot of foot traffic and a lot of car traffic. We have 2 young kids, and we're trying to give them a little bit more safe space to play out back. So we want to bump the fence up, and those 2 small windows there, that's our master suite bathroom. So with the foot traffic, it's just provide us with a bit more privacy, basically. So we got the initial variance last July. In hindsight, my wife said we should have brought it up further, and I said I don't want to do that. But she was right, so we're looking to extend the fence a little bit further up the side.
Any questions for the applicant?
Oh, sorry, there's one more.
Oh, yes.
I did send in another letter of support from the neighbors on the other side of our house too. I think a week or so ago. I asked for that to be added to my file, but they're the lot directly next door to us. The letter of support that was provided is actually the neighbor that will be facing the fence.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, motion to approve.
A motion to approve? Second. We have a second. Discussion? I say it's no surprise, but it's 3 feet from the sidewalk. I don't remember the hearing, but I'm sure I wasn't thrilled with it in July of 2021 either. So I'm going to vote no. He got what he originally asked for. You can get privacy with curtains. So that's me.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
And just to piggyback on what you're saying, and it's nothing personal to the applicant. You guys have heard me yammer on this long enough, but it's just when we've, as approved, these things are built darn near zero lot line, and now we're going to start wrapping all the homes in plastic. I just don't think that's a reflection of good planning, and I don't think it's beneficial to our community, and I don't like these things. I don't think I ever will like these things.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 3-2. Enjoy your fence. All right, next item.
That was officially more yammering.
Item number 6 is a request for a side yard east setback variance from 10 feet to 4 feet for a pole screen enclosure in the R1 AAA Single Family Dwelling District located at 205 Lake Destiny Trail in the Spring Lake Hills Section 3 subdivision. The pole screen enclosure is being replaced due to hail damage from 2020. The original screen was not permitted in 1975. And there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. And this concludes my presentation.
It was constructed in 1975,
That's,
and we're just noticing it now?
they didn't get a code violation.
No?
They had damage, so they're replacing
Right.
it.
So hail is the
I guess,
mighty factor out of like 30
Yeah,
hurricanes.
there you go.
Wow.
All right.
Jeez.
Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add to what staff said? Good evening. Please state your name and address.
I'm Elizabeth Slade, 205 Lake Destiny Trail, and the screen enclosure was there when I bought the house, and I guess 1975, I don't know, it seems like it's probably that old, and we had the hailstorm that came through in the summer of 2020. We had to get a new roof. It damaged the porch and the screen enclosure, so we put on the new roof, and we were trying to get the new screen enclosure, and that's when we found out that we need variance. So I'm not trying to change the footprint at all, just get a new screen enclosure. And it sounds like it's a lot, that I want 6 feet, but it's only, the screen enclosure is kind of angled, so that's the smallest part. And if I don't get the variance, I can't put in a screen enclosure because I wouldn't be able to walk around my pool. From where the existing screen enclosure was before to the deep end area, we do not have a diving board. To the deep end area, there's only about 5 feet. So if I don't get the variance, I just can't put in an enclosure. But same
Okay.
footprint.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? It's been there since 1975. Long time. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Have fun.
They don't make
Enjoy your
it
screen
easy.
enclosure.
They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, I know people that have pulled decks put up now that they don't, screen enclosures don't last 2 years. 75.
It's impressive.
Okay, next item.
Okay, item number 7 is a request for a front yard setback variance from 25 feet to 1 foot, and 2, a side yard east setback variance from 7.5 feet to 1.5 foot, and 2, a side yard east setback variance from 7.5 feet to 2.5 feet for carport addition, and 3, a side yard east setback variance from 7.5 feet to 2.5 feet for a covered patio in the R1 Single Family Dwelling District located at 1754 Lake Street. The subject property is located in the Mineral Springs Park subdivision. The existing carport is 411.6 square feet and encroaches 24 feet into the required front yard setback and 5 feet into the required side yard east setback. The covered patio is 128.31 square feet and encroaches 5 feet into the required side yard east setback. The carport is required to be attached to the residence. I couldn't tell if it was or wasn't by the site plan, but it is required to be attached. And the applicant received a notice of code violation 21-142 for unpermitted construction on September 27th, 2021, and there have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Good evening, sir. Please state your name and address.
Roy Johnston, 1754 Lake Street.
Okay, what would you like to add?
Well, when I first received this notice, I purchased the property in 2018. Carport and the side porch were existing at that point in time. It's a shed roof on the side. I went back, I spoke to the code enforcement inspector, and I spoke to the building official when I received the notice, intended to do a permit that day, and I found out that what these issues were. I looked back through the tax records. This was here since 2012. It's a consistent feature on every property down the block. I would like to bring it up in code compliance, which it appears to be at this point, but I would like to get a permit and make it legal. But obviously I am where I am.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Got one.
Yes, sir.
Is the carport attached to the house?
Yes, it is.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Okay, I have a, is Joseph Hurley present? Yes, sir, come on down. Please state your name and address.
My name is Joseph Hurley, and I live at 1740 Lake Street, the residence next to this property in Oviedo, Florida, 32765, and I have these that I'd like to give to you. Okay, my name is Joseph Hurley. I reside at 1740 Lake Street, which is next to Mr. Johnston's property at 1754 Lake Street. I am opposed to the request for a variance due to the safety concerns. Please refer to the photos, Exhibits A and B, as we proceed. The two structures in question are illegal. The two structures in question are unsightly. The two structures in question pose I believe, a fire and safety hazard. The two structures in question are unique and not similar to surrounding neighbors' structures on Lake Street. According to the LinkedIn profile, Mr. Johnson is a highly credentialed in the area of the law and clearly was aware of the standards, structural deficiencies at the time of purchase. A variance for which we are now discussing at the expense of Seminole County taxpayers. Please refer to the variance criteria form completed by Mr. Johnson. There are numerous inaccurate representations by Mr. Johnson regarding the similar structures, neighbor's house, and pre-existing problems. So I am opposed to this variance.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
You'd mentioned, I might be misstating this, errors or inaccuracies.
Right.
What were they?
Well, on the very first part of the variance request, it said that there were similar structures, carport structures on both properties. My property's never had a carport structure on it. I knew the owners before, and I'm the owner now, and so that's, again, the very first paragraph.
Well, not yours, but are any other neighbors have any kind of a carport?
Absolutely, but none are similar to his. They're set back further. Of course, I'm not sure if they're legal or if they're permitted or unpermitted. This is an illegal structure, so I'm not familiar whether theirs are legal, or I didn't go down the street and ask for if they got variances or not.
Are there any other errors other than what you've described?
I'd have to get the application, but I don't think I have within 3 minutes, but yes, there are.
I only ask because just as you know, your argument for saying no is that there are errors.
Yes.
And
well, the very first statement is that there were similar carport structures on both properties, and that's not true.
And the others though, you'd have to look. You can't remember at this moment.
Well, I'd have to do the research on them, but again, back to their similar structures. Okay, thank you.
No, that I don't have an interest in that, having him read it and then go through it. That's just
okay.
That answers my question sufficiently. Thank you.
So most properties, thank you. That's all.
Did you end up saying something to them previously before he had bought this property? Did you say something to the neighbors previous?
No, previous to this, the neighbor that was there, I wasn't familiar with the setbacks. Mr. Johnston had a survey done on the property. The survey became like a foot and a half over an existing fence towards my property. Mr. Johnston started coming over the fence, and that's when I realized, that's when I started researching property setbacks and things of that nature. I had no idea that there was a setback violation until I was forced into starting to educate myself on property law because of Mr. Johnson's survey and the fact that now he was coming over an existing fence into what he believed was his property. So that's when I started researching setbacks and where we were at. So it wasn't a concern for me before because I wasn't running into the issues of somebody coming over an existing fence and saying the property was theirs. And that's in debate. It's not what we're talking about, but that's why the neighbor and I before never got into that kind of conversation, because I wasn't aware that he needed 7.5 feet and of that nature. So,
Just to be clear, the structure is completely on his property, correct?
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's just, again, if you look at the pictures, that's what I'm looking at. So,
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Board. There's been a long issue going on with Mr. Hurley. Hundreds of yards of fill were dumped on his property when they raised his property, and we've had drainage issues down that side. I did get the survey so I could clear out the drainage ditch. That's what he's talking about. And I have gone over there to clear out the drainage ditch. This has been an ongoing issue with the development department. Everybody's aware of it. I spoke to Mr. Potter numerous times. That's a separate issue that's being dealt with separately. This carport existed 3 years prior to Mr. Hurley owning his home. And the fence and the shed roof in the rear, we can't even tell when that was built. When we look back at the satellite imagery, it was showing up all the time on the tax records. You can't tell when it was actually put up. So I'm not trying to get over on anyone with this situation, I'm trying to resolve an issue that I have. But thank you very much for your time, Board.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
A motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, do we have any discussion?
Yes, I'll be voting against it because the applicant hasn't proven that he's entitled to a variance, and his neighbor has a right to have us enforce the setback requirements. It's unfortunate that it happened, but if the neighbor's objecting who's impacted, there's no way I'm going to rubber stamp that.
I agree.
But my thing is with this, guys, is that we've given variances many times in the past before on previous bought, many times, some stuff that's been bought. And the homeowner, the buyer, is unaware of these situations. No matter what his job might be, we've given it many times before for approval. And he's fixing but it's not on, it's, as Mr. Chair had said, is that it's still on the property of the homeowner, of the applicant. To say because he's not aggressive, there seems to be something going on between these two gentlemen, that's fine, but we've given variances before, many times before, on something when a homeowner moved in and was unaware of this. He's trying to fix the problem, that's the way I see it, is he's trying to remedy it. Despite the social, whatever's going on between them, I don't. It's just in the essence of not good faith, but in the essence of just continuity is, there's been hundreds of people that have come before us that have asked for previous stuff that they were unaware of what they bought when they moved in, despite what their job might have been or accusations they knew or didn't know or whatever. That's just that's my take on it. For continuity, I'll be voting yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Just based on what we have in our packet, I'm looking at page 109 in the package, the tax assessor is recognizing that there's a 140 square foot open porch unfinished in the, it's 1959 and 1986 is when it said it was, the year it was built according to the document that I have in front of me, but while the carport's not shown, that, structure to the rear has been recognized by the tax assessor or property appraiser as having been there. So I agree in the sense that this is an existing condition that has been discovered after the fact. It wasn't caught when it was built or when it was put in, but, and I don't believe we should looking at owner beware. You try to educate yourself as much as you possible when you buy something and you expect something to have the lights on and the walls to be finished, and you see part of the house that you're buying, it's you're making the assumption that if the title company doesn't find any objections or any encroachments, that you have free and clear to what you've purchased. So I am in agreement. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
With respect, what Austin was saying, and I do have respect for your point, my memory is that we generally approve these types of things unless a neighbor objects. And I think every property owner has the right, to their investment-backed expectation that the land development code will be complied with. And if, most people aren't sophisticated when it comes to these kinds of things, and if through public notice, they're made aware that their neighbor has something that's inconsistent, and we can say illegal if you want, but if it's inconsistent, if it's wrong, I think they have the right to say, no, I want the law to be followed. And I think that the property owner has a greater right to say, I want the law followed, than somebody who is outside of that.
But Jim, 3 years previous, there was no issues.
It
See what I'm
doesn't matter.
saying?
But people
Then all
don't
of a sudden,
know.
now there is, now that an official surveyor came out and the variance came forth, as he had said, that's when all of a sudden, but for 3 years, this was no issue, and then now there's the little social drama or whatever it is that's going on. I'm putting that to the side and I'm saying, okay, the fact is, he did buy it. Yes, you're right, there is a contingent with the neighbor, but it's on his property, the variance is there, I understand, but it was a property issue, like he said, that was bought into. It is even recognized on the tax survey.
But what the property appraisers, what the tax collectors, what
Right.
those separate constitutional officers have are not binding on the county and the county planning department.
Right.
And so I think we have to take that into account.
Well, I know that the courts have ruled in the past that even if a county approves something in error, then they can turn around and still deny it and make it be. They've torn down shopping malls and things because of things that were approved in error. So I think this is one of those ones where you have to vote your conscience, what you think is right, and the board may not agree, but
Yeah.
Last vote was 3-2.
in 10 years or so I've been on the board, we've approved a bunch of these, and I've seen every now and then we deny one of these. So it's gone both ways.
Okay, we're still going down the approval path right now. Motion to approve, sir.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the request, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Nay.
nay. All right, motion is defeated, 3-2. The request is denied. You have 15 days to appeal our decision to the Board of County Commissioners. If you get with the staff, they would hope you do so. Yes, sir.
I think the motion failed.
Motion
So I
fails.
think we need a motion to deny now. Motion
We haven't made a
failed.
resolution at this point.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 3-2, is officially dead. The request is denied. You have 15 days to appeal our decision to the Board of County Commissioners. And staff will help you do so. All right, next item.
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 8 is 2 variance requests for floor decor located at 355 State Road 436. The first variance request is to increase the allowable quantity of signage for floor and decor from 1 sign to 5 signs. And the second request is to increase the wall total sign area for the plaza from 90 square feet to 634.97 square feet as required by the Oxford Place Overlay District in the C2 zoning district. The subject property is in the Oxford Place Overlay District, which was adopted on December 11, 2018, subsequent to the construction of the plaza on the subject property. The property is made up of 1 plaza containing 3 tenants, which will be anchored by Floor and Decor in the former Sam's Club space. The first request is to construct 5 wall signs for the middle unit for Floor and Decor, with the 2 adjacent tenants remaining within the Oxford Place overlay requirement of 1 sign per tenant. The second request is for the subject property to increase the allowable wall sign requirement from 30 square feet per tenant for a total of 90 square feet to a total of 634.97 square feet. The applicant would like to construct a monument sign for the plaza of up to 119.85 square feet to not exceed the standard Seminole County sign code requirement. The monument sign is not part of the variance request, that is not restricted in size by the overlay district. The applicant is requesting a total copy area allowance of 754.82 square feet for the wall signs and a monument sign, which is what would be permitted under section 1243 subsection A1A of the Land Development Code. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, we have any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Good evening.
She has it.
Okay, state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Tara Tedrow, 215 North Yola Drive, Orlando, Florida, here on behalf of the applicant. I would say this is a brief presentation, but since nobody's given one, it might not feel too brief, but I will try to go as quickly as I can to get you the information. Here's an aerial of the subject property you can see outlined in yellow with our frontage on State Road 436. This gives you a view looking from 436 to the subject property. You can see that we're set back significantly. We'll show you some dimensions, but we're over 700 feet set back from public right-of-way, which is significant in comparison to most of the other buildings around us and plays a role in why we're asking for the variance tonight. This shows you a view facing the building and the parking lot. The good news is, though this has sat vacant for quite some time, our client is coming in to redevelop the subject property. So we will be upgrading the landscaping, putting in site enhancements. It'll certainly be a visual and functional upgrade, and we're going through a separate process right now, working with county staff to do a site plan with a concurrent development agreement for the rest of the upgrades, but the sign package portion had to come before you all tonight. This shows you a view from Fern Park Boulevard because there's 3 different roads along the sides of the building. Finally, that's a view from Fernwood Boulevard as well in the rear of the building. This is the existing pylon sign that's to be removed facing State Road 436. That sign, according to our sign company, has about 60 square feet of copy area. So we would only get half of that for one tenant if we only had wall sign under the code, which is a really small amount of copy area given how far back our project is going to be set off of the public right-of-way. So by way of background, it's about a 12.4 acre property. It's a planned adaptive reuse and exterior renovations to the former Sam's Club building. It's zoned C2, has a retail commercial future land use, but it's the Oxford Overlay District that causes a little bit of a disconnect between what the underlying zoning of commercial would otherwise allow by right, but the Oxford Overlay has some additional restrictions when it comes to signage. When the Oxford Overlay District was adopted in 2018, that's a couple decades after this building was originally built. And so the Oxford Overlay was in order to create an intense urban setting where it contemplated that buildings which were commercial in nature would be set basically directly onto public right-of-way. So if we went to knock this building down today, we would have to pull it all the way up to the street and we would be prohibited from having a parking lot in front of our building, which is pretty critical because the way it stands today, we have a huge parking lot in front of our building. So if we rebuilt it, the code would make perfect sense in terms of signage because your building would be right up against the road. But because we have an existing building and the overlay does not contemplate what you do with existing buildings, we've been working with staff extensively to try to come up with a development agreement on site development and then separately to deal with signage, given that it is an adaptive reuse. This shows you the zoning of C2 and the future land use map of commercial. This also shows you the border of the Oxford Overlay District and our property. So there's only a couple of properties that front State Road 436, all of which are built out with existing buildings. And just to give you a little comparison of maps, hard to see those orange arrows, but if you take it from the left of the screen down 436, it goes from some distances of setbacks from 200 feet, 97 feet, 100 feet, 91 feet, and then there we are 700 feet setback. So we're the only property that fronts State Road 436 that is a couple football fields away from public right-of-way. So all of the other buildings that are built along that public right-of-way that are in the overlay district have normal commercial signage. So we're just asking for the same type of commercial signage that the other buildings that are also in the overlay district that have a commercial zoning are entitled to by right under the code. Of course, if anybody comes to knock the building down on the subject property, they would have to build in full compliance with Oxford overlay and signage, but given those dimensional hardships, we're requesting that variance tonight. This shows you some additional buildings in the Oxford Overlay District that are already built out and the type of signage that they have. Keep in mind that we're removing the pylon sign on the property, not because we have to. We did that because staff had requested us. They don't want pylon signs anymore along State Road 436, so my client offered to eliminate that signage and replace it with allowable monument signs, but you can see a lot of those other commercial centers are still keeping their pylon signs in place. So we have 3 different requests. I won't read them all out loud because they're contained in your packet, but those are requested variances. Again, all of the requests are exactly what would be allowed under commercial zoning today. So if we were just going under your code, we wouldn't be asking for any variances under your normal sign code. It's just the Oxford overlay that has created a bit of a disconnect. So the district standards, again, under the Oxford overlay that your staff had articulated at the beginning is just one sign with a maximum of 30 square feet. And so we would only be limited to 90 square feet total of wall signage. This is what we had our sign company put together. That is if we're standing on State Road 436, how big our sign would be if it was 30 square feet of copy area, which is essentially the last row, I think, on a vision test with your eye doctor. So it is a very tiny amount of wall signage, I mean, almost comically small compared to what every other commercial building has, and just compared, frankly, to the size of the building when you see how far back it truly is. And then add on the fact that we are going to be enhancing the entire parking lot with new canopy trees and landscaping. So our line of sight there is already going to be a bit diminished as is when we go through with the upgrades to the property. So here are your sign standards. Again, what we're asking for is exactly within the limitations of your normal sign code. And this shows you the request for the type of signage we would have. It's smaller than what we usually get in some other jurisdictions, but again, we're keeping it exactly what your code would already allow for commercial buildings in commercial zoning districts. And this just shows you the customer pickup indication wall signage that we would be requesting. So that's where the total proposed copy area comes from. It shows you where we're going to be asking for those signs on the property, again, because we have frontage on 436 as well as on Thorn Park Boulevard. So there's a couple variance criteria under your code. The first is that special conditions and circumstances exist. And in this instance, when we went back and forth with staff, and the reason they gave a recommendation for approval is because the Oxford overlay was drafted assuming new buildings would be built to the road, since they prohibit on-site parking between the building frontage and right-of-way. So our existing building, since it has approximately 700 feet of setback from State Road 36, the existing sign standards under the overlay are extremely limiting, so we're asking to default back to the code on regular sign standards. What we're also asking for when we go before the Board of County Commissioners, when we have to get approval for our site plan, is we're kind of mix and matching. Again, given the fact that it's an adaptive reuse and the code just frankly does not talk about how you deal with a building that was already built in the Oxford Overlay District before the code came into place. This is not self-created. Again, we're moving into a place that was constructed prior to the establishment of the Overlay District, so those special conditions and circumstances didn't result because of the applicant. It wouldn't confer a special privilege. In the photos that you can see before, all of the other commercial buildings fronting State Road 436 within the Oxford Overlay District have the signage that's allowed under code and have that adequate amount of signage that cars can actually see it from public right-of-way. In addition, it's not a deprivation of rights caused to anybody else. The code was written for adaptive reuses, so we are just utilizing an existing commercial structure. We would be severely limited by the way that the code is written for new build within the Oxford Overlay District, so the literal interpretation would deprive the applicant of rights that have been enjoyed by all of those other properties in the same district along State Road 436. And this is the minimum possible variance. We are using code and we're not going above what your normal sign code would otherwise allow under regular circumstances. And then finally, we are going to stay within the county's current sign code and standards, so we are in harmony with the general intent. The difficulty is just that some code for an overlay was adopted 30 years after a building was constructed, never contemplated what you did with those existing buildings, and so in working with staff, they found it appropriate to recommend approval for our request tonight. So our request is to approve our variance consistent with your staff's recommendation and subject to their conditions of approval, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do we have any questions for you? Anyone? You did a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
motion to approve with the conditions 1 and 2 that staff recommended.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second?
Second, Mr. Hadaway. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Good luck. I miss Sam's Club, but I'm glad somebody's doing something with it.
We'll like Florida Decor too, we promise.
It's closer than the other two.
All right, next item.
Item number 9 is 2 variance requests for 108 Tangerine Drive located in the Phillips Ravina Park section of Lock Harbor subdivision. The first request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 8.67 feet, and the second request is for a west side yard setback reduction from 7.5 feet to 2.52 feet for an accessory structure in the R1A zoning district. The request is to bring into compliance the construction of a 12-foot by 20-foot shed within the rear and west side yard setbacks. A code enforcement violation, number 2250, was issued for the structure, resulting in the necessity of the variance. A letter of support has been received from one of the 2 affected neighbors. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. Please state your name and address.
Nicole Wagner, 108 Tangerine Drive, Sanford, Florida, 32771.
Okay, what you got?
Brent Wagner.
Oh, there you go.
So we purchased this property in 2008, and the shed was already there. We were unaware of the issue with needing a permit. We use this shed for storage. We have a carport, so no garage. All of our yard equipment, valuable things such as for storage are in the shed. It's pretty much our garage. And so we're asking for a variance because it's after the fact of, like I said, we purchased the property with it. We have a septic tank that comes off the back of the house along with our drain field. So that's why we're asking for the variance for it behind the shed, not to have to move it forward to affect that. And then we're also asking for the variance from the side because we have a concrete pad that was there that would affect anchoring it for securing the shed. We don't have any issues with the neighbors having a problem. Everybody in our neighborhood has sheds due to the carport issues, so we can store things and yard equipment, etc. Next to us, the Shyrocks, they have a shed. We have a letter of support from them. They don't have any issues with the location of where it's been for 13-plus years. Behind us, Jeff Russell, he has a shed about the same size, directly behind us, but opposite. So he has the same layout as our backyard as well. So we actually visit with him when we are in the backyard, and we both are, when we're in the shed, no issues. So he's got the same layout, no opposition from him. And then diagonal from our home in the back, she doesn't have any issues either. Nobody even knew it was a problem until the code violation came up. I guess with the variance, because the shed is so large, is I guess why we're applying for it, because it needed to be the same setbacks as like a home. But again, we have the drain field, the septic. We also have a power line. You see kind of like where that red drop-down pin is. Our power line comes right across by the shed. The power pole is behind the shed. So to even have to like move it, to lift it, it would touch the power line. So that's kind of to give you an idea of the backyard and the issues with moving it out and forward.
Any questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
Your neighbor's shed to the rear, is it in catty corner from where yours is, in the opposite corner?
Opposite corner, so you can kind of see it. If you're right there, can I walk up to the?
Yeah, I've got it. The survey that you gave us appears to show that shed on your neighbor's property, and it's even closer than your shed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. And just so you know, because it's over 200 square feet, it has to have the house setbacks, but
Yes.
even if it was 200 under, you still have to have 10 feet off the property.
Okay.
So you would have been forced into a variance either way.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your bid. All right, next item.
Item number 10 is a variance request for 303 Fox Squirrel Lane located in the Springs Live Oak Village subdivision. The request is for a wall height variance from 6 feet 6 inches to 6 feet 8 inches in the Springs Plan Development. The request is to replace an existing wood wall with a 6-foot 8-inch concrete wall along the rear property line. The rear of the property abuts a greenbelt and utility easement. A letter of support has been received from one of the affected neighbors. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I often say I went to law school because I'm a math atheist. Are we doing a variance over 3 inches?
2 inches.
2.
Oh, sorry. See?
There you are. It gets better, 2 inches.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for
I
staff?
knew you couldn't resist that.
Mr. Chair, point of order that I'm actually HOA president board for this village, or for this community in here, but no titles to anything else financially. So
I believe as long as it's not financial, you're...
It's not financial.
Is
okay.
that a paying job?
Yeah, so-
Oh, I wish it was.
All right. Okay, is the applicant present? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Wonderful. State your name and address, please.
My name is Keith McKean, 303 Fox Squirrel Lane in Longwood, Florida, 32779 in the Springs. We're simply replacing an existing wooden wall with a concrete block wall, same height. And we've got a letter from one neighbor, spoken with the other neighbor. There's no disagreement with the request to replace the existing wall. And we've spoken with both neighbors and also the boards. Both boards have okayed the replacement of the wall with a concrete block wall.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
All right, next item.
Item number 11 is a variance request for 2322 Ivy Harvest Place, located in the Chapman Pines subdivision. The request is for a south side street setback reduction from 20 feet to 0 feet for a privacy fence in the R1BB zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Ivy Harvest Place. The south, Blossom Sound Court, is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence on the side street property line, encroaching entirely into the setback. The fence will stop prior to the start of the roadway. The privacy fence is 0 feet from the sidewalk and 15 feet from the edge of pavement at the very corner of the fence. The proposed privacy fence encroaches into a 5-foot drainage easement and a 10-foot utility easement, and at building permitting will be required to meet the criteria for placement with an estoppel letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Chapman Pines Homeowners Association has approved the homeowner's request for the fence. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
looking at the site plan, let me pull that up. I'm just trying to establish the understanding that we have a side setback on Blossom Sound Court, but it appears that the fence starts against Lot 128, so why do we consider this to be a side yard setback variance request for the secondary street? the side, I guess what I'm asking, because it appears that the fence is pretty much contained to lot 128 and,
Yeah, lot 28.
or
is
20, I'm
what's-
sorry, 20, correct,
That's
yeah.
okay. Yes, that is correct, but it does abut that street on that street right of way. So it's considered a side street.
So the side yard setback would extend all the way to the rear of the property?
It would be a side street on that.
All the way to the rear property adjacent to lot 28, that line continues.
Yeah, along that whole side.
Interesting. They adjusted the easement because of it, but the setback doesn't adjust.
Yeah, it's still within the 25 feet. 25. 20 feet. It's still within 20 feet of that road right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking for clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant present?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you would like to add?
Sure.
Come on down. Please state your name and address.
Joshua Hawes, 2322 Ivy Harvest Place, Oviedo, Florida, 32765.
Okay, what do you have to add?
So basically, Board Member Wright kind of hit the nail on the head with this. The road ends before my backyard starts, and then immediately after the road ends, my neighbor's lot begins. So their driveway begins where the road ends, and then past their driveway is their front yard. So my backyard is directly adjacent to their front yard, and all I'm asking to do is to fence their yard off from my yard. I believe setbacks are set up to assist with obstruction of vision to motorists. No motorist is going down their driveway except for that owner. Even with the fence up, those people would be able to see all the way to the next street from their driveway. So I don't see how it affects anybody as far as driving down those two roads there. And I think it makes my property more similar to a middle lot than a corner lot, as every middle lot's allowed to fence their yards off from their neighbor's yards. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it. I think that kind of covers it. It's a matter of fairness, trying to fence my yard up without giving my yard to my neighbors and keep my family safe and allow my children to play out in the yard. So, that's it.
Okay, why does it need to be right up on the sidewalk?
It doesn't necessarily need to be right up on the sidewalk. It just needs to be on the line between my neighbor's yard and my yard, so that once I fence off the yard, say I give them 10 feet of my yard, for all intents and purposes, it gives them my yard. It's not going to be used by me anymore, and it gives them free reign to do whatever they want with it. So that's what I'm concerned with, is for the reason for needing to go all the way over there. But it doesn't necessarily need to be next to the sidewalk. I just want it on the line to separate our yards.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
It's not clear to me where your fence connects to your building. Is it equal to the end of the sidewalk?
So, yeah, you can see on these pictures, that's my patio right here. And the corner of my house lines up directly with the sidewalk. So I just want to be able to start my fence where my patio is, so that that's all enclosed, so nobody has direct access into my rear door, which is a concern for my family, because somebody did break into our house through that door before we moved in to steal the range. So that's a big concern of ours, is the safety issue.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm still not clear about the request, so I'll have to ask staff, I guess. I don't want a fence up on the sidewalk, but if he's asking for the fence to be at the end of the sidewalk and go to the rear lot line, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want a fence along the sidewalk. And I can't tell from the drawing, there's kind of a yellow line. I don't know whether that's supposed to depict.
You go back, if you
so
go
it
back
is
a
that
couple
yellow
pictures, there's a picture that shows the side of the house and the sidewalk in relation to.
I see it, it's just not as clear on paper.
Yeah, they had a picture on the screen just a second ago.
Okay. And then the other item for staff is, you said that if we were to grant this easement, which would be within the drainage easement in the rear, it would have to go through an estoppel process, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, board members. Wait,
Any other, oh, you have another question?
you had said you wanted the fence for safety. You'd alluded to a burglary before you bought the house. Are there other safety issues, what other safety issues are you concerned about?
Well, that's the main one. I mean, it was after we purchased the house, right before we moved in, somebody did break, because the house was finished, we were just waiting to close. Somebody broke in, through that sliding glass door in the back, stole the range, and delayed our whole process and all, and scared the crap out of my wife. But also, I mean, we're about to have a child. We want our child to be able to play in the backyard and have a fence that's completely enclosed, because from what I understand, the only thing I'm allowed to do now is go straight back from my open patio, so my fence essentially wouldn't even close in my yard. And if that's open, then obviously my kids, my dogs will run straight out.
Gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? I have a question before I ask for a motion. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So is the fence starting before the corner of the sidewalk?
It's starting a
The yellow
little
here?
bit
Right,
of a
it'll go
ways.
down and across there, not actually be beside the sidewalk. Okay.
You could like compare that sidewalk to that photo.
Right, I got you now. I understand. Okay, that's different than what I initially thought. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion approved, we have a second, any discussion?
Yeah, I think if we don't allow it, that he's essentially given 5 feet or more to his neighbor for his rear yard fence, and I don't think that's fair.
Right. Well, the sidewalk turns there.
Right.
So that's different than our normal running beside the sidewalk, and he's not asking to put the fence next to the sidewalk, he's stopping before he gets there, so I don't have a problem with that personally. It's different than what we normally see. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with your fence. Have a great night. All right, next item.
Item number 12 is a variance request for 3961 Centerville Way, located in the Riverbend at Cameron Heights subdivision. The request is for a side street setback reduction from 20 feet to 10 feet for a privacy fence in the Cameron Heights plan development. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces north on Centerville Way, the east side facing Chattahoochee Lane, something like that, where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 10 feet into the required 20-foot side street setback. The proposed privacy fence is 10 feet from the sidewalk and 21 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Riverbend at Cameron Heights Homeowners Association has approved the applicant's request. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair?
Sir? Hold on, Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
Question, Hillary, for you, and this might not be fair, it might catch you flat-footed, so I apologize up front. Do you know why the Land Development Code has their fence requirements the way they are?
Well, I wasn't born when they were created.
Thank you.
Why they have them the way they are as far as like side streets?
From good planning principles.
To prevent any site visibility issues, to prevent neighborly type issues, et cetera, et cetera.
Fair enough. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
No, I'm crushed. I'm old. Jeez.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah, I did.
Sir?
Well, now I have a second question now that Mr. Hadaway's brought that up. On the site plan itself, we have the red line that shows with the big bold red 10 feet from the sidewalk, but it looks like there was something else penciled in underneath there.
That's how the applicant originally drew it in.
Okay,
But they were
that has nothing to do
requesting
with an
10
existing
feet, so I
fence,
just
or,
corrected
there
it.
wasn't anything there that?
No.
Okay, it's just erroneous information.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And to respond to what you were saying is that not to name municipalities, but I've asked that question, you know, early on when I'm a member of this board. Other municipalities in the past that I've dealt with look at it differently, where they still want separation from the edge of the right-of-way, the sidewalk, which is typically where that's at, but they allow half the distance. You know, so instead of using the building setback as the primary, they'll allow you to go 50%. You know, that was why I asked that same question, I don't know, early on at the beginning of the year or so, how that came up to be, because there is differences when different municipalities look at it, so, thank you. That was my 2 cents.
There you go. Any other questions for staff?
Ooh, one more.
Yes, sir.
And you've inspired me. So back at you. Now that I'm looking at this, when you mentioned the sketch that's underneath it, Hillary, it looks like they're proposing, at least from their original hand-drawn sketch, a gate towards that south end there. Is that part of the application?
That is, that appears to be what they're requesting. However, at the time of building permitting review, that may not be allowed.
Gotcha.
Because it would cross over the right-of-way sidewalk.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Good evening. Good evening. Please state your name and address.
My name is Richard Boisher, and I'm the homeowner at 3961 Centerville Way, Sanford, Florida 32771. And I'm requesting this variance. Currently, it's 20 feet from the road, and right now it's 20 feet 1 inch, was where my home is set back. So I'm not able to utilize that part of the property. We currently are in process of a pool being installed right now. So it will be within the home footprint. This will not allow very much of the yard to be utilized. This will extend it and also add extra privacy. We're not having a pool enclosure installed. This reduces the cost and also stops children or other people trying to come into the home earlier, or than further distance than if the fence wasn't there. We're also wanting to bring it up to just after the window that is on the side of that home, also for protection. Currently, there's a front room where an office is and a second room. So if we were to have a second child, that would be a room. The other one, we have a 3-year-old on the other side. So we have a fence. We're asking for a fence to go all the way past the two windows. It doesn't restrict any view. There's not a stop sign on my corner, but across from the home. So when you're turning, you're just turning. If you're coming from the front side of the home, so there's really no obstruction there. And then also we would like to beautify that area as well along the fence line. And we plan on doing that in the spring when we plant for the vegetation around the pool and such.
Okay.
And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
2 questions. You said you wanted to beautify along the fence line.
Correct. So you can add other shrubs. There's a home that we also cited that has a variance that is on that however you would like to pronounce it, that has a fence that's also a corner lot that I believe he may be a landscaper, and he has nice palms there and some other nice vegetation.
So
to make it appealing.
Vegetation between I guess next to the fence, between the fence and the sidewalk?
Yes.
Or not like on the house side?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Like, maybe a flowering shrubs or whatnot, we'd have to see. And with the gate, I did put the gate there partly because I wasn't sure when this was going to be done compared to when the pool. So this would allow access to any equipment that needed to also go into, to be done for digging out the pool and such.
Well, I mean, they could always just take the panel out rather than having gates there, right?
Correct. So, I mean, I have no objection on not having gates there and moving it to the further part. It's just more for, at that time, that was the reasoning why.
And last question.
Yes.
Is as you've heard us probably say with other folks, it's nice to hear from neighbors, and we don't have anything in our packet from your neighbors saying they're okay with it or they're not okay with it. Have you spoken with your neighbors?
I have. We're actually very friendly with all of our neighbors and have big Halloween parties, and our kids play together, and we all congregate either at my corner or the next corner. We're very friendly with them, along with the front neighbors. Nobody has had any issues. Right now, we have a dirt pile because I think we haven't had any complaints. We actually had a lot of people ask for our dirt. But no, we've had no issues when I spoke to our neighbors. We're actually in the process of speaking with our new neighbor to the left side here, that they just moved in, and then behind us, they weren't ready to install a fence yet at the time when we asked them, so.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Okay, any other questions?
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cooper, second.
He's been quiet tonight. Give it to him.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Good luck. All right, next item.
Item number 13 is a variance request for Lot 8 on Hawkins Avenue located in the Lockhart subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 18 feet for a single-family residence in the R1 zoning district. The request is to construct a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family dwelling 12 feet into the 30-foot rear yard setback. The property abuts a 15-foot alley, of which half can be used towards the setbacks pursuant to Section 30.1346 of the Seminole County Land Development Code, but that would still fall short of the 30-foot setback by 4.5 feet. The subject property is a parcel of record, that predated the subdivision regulations located within the Lockhart subdivision target area, which was designed by Seminole County to promote new housing opportunities. The overall goal of the county's program is to stabilize and revitalize low-income neighborhoods through capital improvement, housing rehabilitation, and public service activities. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add to the staff presentation? Come on down. State your name and address, please.
My name is Alberto Williams. I stay at 2405 South Lake Avenue, Sanford, Florida. This lot right here, I'm trying to build for my daughter for her graduation next year. So hopefully, if everything's go right, that's what I'm trying to get this right here built for my daughter for her graduation.
Very nice, you bought
That's your
house.
house, right?
My daughter was happy with some gas money and a Disney.
Next question, is he adopting?
Yeah, right. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, motion to approve.
Second.
Approve. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you. Your daughter better love you.
Amen to that.
You better get a good Father's Day.
More than a cup.
All right, next item.
Item number 14 is a variance request for 142 Hilltop Place located in the Hilltop Estates subdivision. The request is for a north side yard setback reduction from 20 feet to 10 feet for an accessory structure in the RC1 zoning district. The request is to construct a 14-foot by 36-foot shed halfway into the 20-foot north side yard setback. Letters of support have been received from the directly affected neighbor and the neighbor across the street. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add? Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Good luck to you, sir. All right, next item.
Item number 15 is a variance request for 2837 Cliff Court located in the Ashford Park subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 15 feet to 4 feet for an addition in the Trinity Retail Center plan development. The request is to construct an 11-foot by 19.6-foot covered screen room addition 11 feet into the rear yard setback. The Ashford Park Townhome Owners Association has approved the applicant's request. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
That's the first time I've ever seen where the square cut a building in half because they're, I get it. Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add? Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion to approve, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Good luck to you. All right, next thing will be the minutes. The additions, deletions, changes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes, sir?
Second?
Motion, we have a second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, minutes are approved. Anything else for the good of the order?
For the record, I don't think Kathy spoke the whole meeting, and I've been here for years. I think it's a first. She always gets a question.
Oh, so he means that they didn't have to ask you a question. Because staff is your expert.
But get a cell phone tower and watch her hop up and down.
I might have asked you, but I was so stunned after I was made to feel so old. Your ageist comment there.
Yeah. Well, y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Adjourned.
I wasn't born yet.
Wasn't even born then. That hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Not even close either.
Just keep on going.